Good morning, young kings. Time for your morning motivation. I've been getting some of the feedback. They don't put it in my comments. They give me calls, friends, and they've been telling me to keep these down pretty low. I'm talking too long. So I'll give you the prerequisites. I understand that people's attention spans are shorter than a midget with amputated legs. But if you just bear with me just a little bit, I got a morning motivation for you this morning. Today's morning motivation is that your progress is beyond your feelings and your emotions. So, in order for you to progress, there's going to come a point in time where you got to extend beyond what you feel, beyond what your emotional response is. You got to go past that threshold because your emotions and your feelings are linked to your weakness, like the areas of where you currently struggle at, where you've been afflicted or oppressed. Is going to get you to do something that'll keep you in a defeated state. So your emotions and your feelings unregulated are not your friends. It can be the exact opposite. It can be your enemy. So, growing up watching basketball in the 90s, where fouls were fouls. I mean, people came out of there with bleeding and stuff of that nature. But if you notice the trends of the fouls, the original foul probably wasn't caught by the ref. It was the response to the foul, and it was an emotional reaction to what had just transpired. And so that's the one that was called a foul. And it wasn't those who are watching it on TV and those who are watching it live, they had a perspective that they can see the whole things. But sometimes the referee only seeing the response. Someone got a foul, and then the other person got mad and they retaliated. So they seen the retaliation and they didn't see the initiation that caused that. So the referee is addressing the retaliation and penalizing those who are having that emotional response. And the person who did the initial act got away, so to speak. They didn't get the foul. Now today they got instant replay and stuff of that nature. But what you got to have the ability is to regulate your emotions, to regulate your feelings, because sometimes everything that feels good to you is not good for you. And a lot of things that feel bad to you, it's not bad for you. So a lot of people want to live their best life, and they want to make sure that everything is all good all the time. But I tell you what, if you're really going to live your best life, there's going to be some heartaches, there's going to be some pains, there's going to be some disappointment if your best life is connected to anything of significance. Now, if your best life is just sitting around doing nothing and there's nothing great in you, which I doubt, because there's greatness in everyone, but sometimes it's just suffocated and you lose the ability to hear that voice telling you to go beyond. So, but if your best life is something that is of significance, it's going to be through some struggles. It's going to be through some days that you don't feel like doing something. It's going to be through some pains. It's going to be through some heartaches. But you're going to have to find the personal courage and intestinal fortitude to just push through those things. So when you don't, that's when you live a life of complacency and in your comfort zone. And a lot of people think that in order to be successful, if you were really interested in something, you're supposed to be motivated. But the reality of it is, it's like the myth of motivation. Motivation is short term and it's short lived. Motivation is designed for ideal situations. The sun is bright, or it's just a cool breeze, just cool enough, but not too hot, not too cold. The running surface is flat and everything is good. That's when motivation comes in, when you got ideal situations and circumstances surrounding what your endeavor, what you're trying to do. But let the conditions change and become unfavorable. Let it be cloudy or about to rain. Your motivation is gonna abandon you. Let it be cold outside. You're gonna say, man, it's cold. I really don't feel like running today. So motivation is fickle. It won't stick by you. So if you're depending on motivation to get you through the next step, then you always going to fall short. That's why when you start a goal, when you start something, um, everybody's motivated in the beginning because it's new and it's exciting, and it's, it's that adrenaline is going. It's like, hey, I want to do A, B, and C, and you'll find yourself, you'll start telling people, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then something happens, a setback happens, and something unexpected happens, and that motivation start like, man, I really didn't want to do that anyway, and you'll be given justification on why you didn't follow through. You'll follow up, or people follow with you, hey, how's this coming? Man, wasn't even worth it. I ain't wasting my time on no more. And the reality of it is that it was worth it. That you just didn't get past your emotions or your feelings towards a setback. You thought that if it was meant for you to happen, then everything was going to line up and it was going to be easy. And the reality of it is, easy is the enemy. If you're in an environment where everything is coming natural and you understand everything that's going on, where you're in a conversation where you can predict what's going to happen next, and you can kind of foresee the outcome and manipulate that. If you're in an environment where you're not being stretched or you're not being pushed, then good chances are that you are beneath your potential. You operating at a spirit too low for you. It's time for you to get out that comfort zone and to get into positions where you got to start doing more research. Where there's been some conversations that I've been in, and I'd be thinking to myself, man, what are they talking about? What does that word mean? And it causes me to stretch. And after the meeting, I'll go Google it and try to expand my vocabulary to get caught up, or to ask questions to figure out what's going on, not to be stuck in ignorance and thinking that I know something that I don't. There's a saying out there though that says, like, the people that know it all don't know at all. So I'll give you an example, a life story. I got a story for days, and I'm gonna keep it short. But I was going through a flight simulator, and the benefits of flying in a flight simulator is that it allows you to push the envelope of what the aircraft can do without putting yourself in immediate dangers. So that's where we practice a lot of emergency procedures, like if the engine was to cut off, if you were to have a fire, and you go through the diagnosis of how do you land that aircraft safely. So you can do that in a flight simulator. And I remember going through a flight simulator with my instructor pilot in a training, and he was pushing the envelope, just trying to check my knowledge on emergency procedures and making sure that I understood everything that was going on in that aircraft. And we did rollovers where you're flying a helicopter and try to get it to where you exceed the critical angle, where it starts to roll and it starts to descend. How do you recover from that? We were simulating engines off, and I thought I did pretty good being a new pilot, but there was a lot of things that I missed. And believe me that he knew he studied this aircraft in and out, knew every nut and bolt on this aircraft. And I came away from there thinking, man, I got so much more to learn about this aircraft. Man, this guy knows it all. Then I remember we were driving from the flight simulator, and we were going back to our hotel, and we had a rental car. And the next day we were going to be leaving. So he's like, hey, I need to stop and get some gas so we can fill it up. So we stopped, and at the gas station, we pulled up, and he just kind of paused. I said, hey, what's going on? He said, I'm trying to figure out what side of the car the gas tank is on. This is a new car. I don't know what's going on. And I told him, I said, look at your gas meter. It has an arrow that points to what side the gas is on. And he's like, oh, I never knew that. So back, in the early 2000s, I'm not sure if they do it on all the new cars, but there used to be a little arrow next to the gas sign that'll tell you what side the gas tank was on. So this guy just left this advanced aircraft and knew everything about it. We going through emergency procedures, like I was just mentioning, and he going up and down and this and that. But then it comes to a point where we get to a standard car and he doesn't know. So how do we get there off emotional response? I don't know, but I thought it was beneficial for you to hear that story. But the reality of things is that you won't always feel like doing something. You won't always feel good. You won't always get into the mood where it's perfect conditions. So if you find yourself in situations that are beyond your comfort, don't quit, don't give up, just keep pushing. Um, and don't think that because people push you that they're the enemy. Like that instructor pilot, uh, although he was harping on me in the aircraft, what he was really doing is trying to save my life in real life. Like in case I was flying with him and he was incapacitated, he needed to know that I had the ability to navigate and get that aircraft safely back on the ground. So everybody that's hard on you is not an enemy, and everybody that's say good things about you are not your friends. They're not ones that are connected to your future. And I have had some bosses that I thought were amazing, and they treated me well and everything. And I was like, man. But then it came to my evaluation, and it was just kind of bland. But then I've had some bosses that I thought absolutely hated me and that were out to get me and trying to destroy me. I mean, they would be on me about everything. Then I get to my evaluation, and it's like, wow, they gave me this glowing, you know, evaluation. Like it was complete opposite. So your emotions and your feelings will misinterpret things. And I remember growing up, I used to fight a lot in school. That's why they used to tell me that I wasn't going to succeed in the Army because I was hard-headed and I fought a lot. But I noticed that, when I was fighting, you know, back in the 90s, people used to get in circles. And, the two people that were fighting were in the center. And all the instigators were around on the outside of the circle. And everybody was like, hey, he said something about your mama. I know you ain't going to take that. And then the next person would say, hey, he said something about such and such. I know you ain't going to take that. And then someone instigating would pick the one person hand up and they would flop it up and like, oh, he just tried to swing on you. I know you ain't gonna take that. So after moments of this instigation of people hyping you up, then the fight ensued. The people in the circle, they might have been mad and they might have wanted to fight initially, but then they were kind of contemplating, man, this ain't worth it. But then the instigators all around um, started to instigate and to agitate people to get to a point where they felt like they needed to fight in order to prove their manhood. So, who is your puppet? Who's pulling your strings? And then I'll be remiss to go through this video and not mention some of the stuff that's happened with the George Floyd response. Um, and yes, there's a trauma that happened, but there's a lot of instigators out there that's out there pulling people's strings to get them to do things that they naturally wouldn't do. They're out there going through a peaceful protest, and they have good intentions, but somewhere through the process there's someone out there that's agitating or instigating them to do something completely different, to change the whole narrative. So when they do that, it's back to the foul situation. We're not addressing the original response to the egregious act committed against George Floyd. Now the news and everybody's focused on the response. The referee, society is looking more in line with the way the referee looked at the file. They acting like they didn't see or didn't know what was going on with George Floyd. Now they're going to come and impose a penalty on those who responded. So I know people may be saying, well, you always tell us what not to do. What should we do? I'm going to give you a tip. Like, let's say you go burn this store down. What's going to happen? Let's say not even that you might get caught and that you might have a felony or something of that nature, but let's say you go burn, like they did, a Target down or whatever. What's going to happen? They got insurance. The insurance is going to go rebuild that, and then their insurance premium is going to go up. Who you think is going to pay that insurance premium? You think the owner's going to do that, or do they transfer that down to the customer? Just do you think the goodwill is just they're going to let you burn down their store, the insurance is going to go up? So that price of goods that went from $3 now may be $3.79, $4.25. So the same people that tore it down are going to rebuild it. Let's say if you wanted to really have an impact on an organization that you thought was unjustly and that was not for your cause. Let's say that you just stopped shopping there and you stopped spending your dollars there, and you were to say, you know what, I'm going down to the essential needs only. I'm going to maintain my capital and just start building up. I'm not going to go buy the latest Jordans. I'm not going to go spend on the latest car and do all that. I'm just going to keep my money. That same business, it's going to close up without you burning it, because it's not going to be profitable for them to be in business. So when you go and you tear stuff up and you burn it down and you loot it, the insurance is going to put it back, and it's just going to be at a higher price. So now you're going to impoverish or punish the same people that you say you're standing up for. Sometimes it's time to think. Your emotions, sometimes they're not for you. They're against you. So really check how you feel about things, and don't give that immediate response. Sometimes you gotta take time to think. Like when you get an injury or something that happens, you break a bone, the first thing you got to do is go through surgery, and then you got to rest, and then you got to recover, and then you got to start your therapy to get back up going on. And that's the same with the physical and mental. Sometimes we need to have a surgery, a heart surgery, to change our minds about things and our response, and that's part of our rest period. And then you got to go through some therapy to realize what you did and what you can do in the future to prevent that. And then once you start building it back up, you'll get to a state where you're at a better position. So take a pause from all this emotional response, stop spending your money at these places, and then formulate a plan on how to advance your call towards progress. But when it comes to your emotion, question them all, because they're lying to you. When they question your feelings, is this really in line with what I want to do, or is it a distraction, as we talked about previously? So don't trust your emotions and initial response. Don't trust your feelings. Settle down and keep your eye on the prize. Stay woke. Have a great day.